Imagine yourself back in Vienna in the early years of the 20th century. This is a city with historical Celtic migration and which suffered a plague in 1679 which wiped out a third of its population. It has been known for its musical composers, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven. The BBC has reported that in 1913, Adolf Hitler, Leon Trotsky, Tito, Sigmund Freud and Joseph Stalin all lived within a few miles of each other in central Vienna, some of them becoming regulars at the same coffee houses. Now, Walter Benjamin is best known for his philosophical history writing, which is favoured by intellectual left-wingers. No university syllabus seriously aiming to analyse culture is going to be complete without his essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. This German Jewish writer committed suicide in 1940 while on the French-Spanish border and trying to escape the advancing Wehrmacht. The routing of this short fragment, and I'm going to read, in Vienna, cannot be random. This was both Red Vienna, known for its socialist agitation, and also the home of the Austrian school of liberal capitalist economics, the most famous of whom was Friedrich August von Hayek. They saw economics, jobs, and money being governed by the motivations and actions of individuals, and they saw a regulatory state as oppressive. This story consists of two individuals. How do they choose to spend their time? Are they part of a society?
In a Big Old City. Novella fragment by Walter Benjamin. Fragment written circa 1906 to 1912, unpublished in Benjamin's lifetime. Translated by Sebastian Truskalaski. There once lived a merchant in a big old city. His house stood in one of the very oldest parts of town, on a narrow, dirty little alley. And on this alley, where all the houses were so old that they could no longer stand alone and had to lean against each other, the merchant's house was the oldest. But it was also the biggest, with its mighty, arched doorway and tall, curved windows made up of half-blind bullseye panes, and with the steep roof on which a number of narrow little skylights had been fitted. It looked quite strange. The house of the merchant, the last house on Mariengasse. This was a pious town, and many of the houses had beautiful carvings of the Holy Virgin, or some other saint, above their doorways, or under their roofs. On Mariengasse, too, every house had its saint. Only the merchant's house stood bare and grey without any adornments. Nobody lived in the big house except for the merchant and a small 8-year-old girl. The girl was not his daughter, but she lived with him. He brought her up, and the child helped with the housekeeping. But how she came to live in the merchant's house, nobody really knew. The merchant was not some ordinary grocer from whom the people bought clothes or spices, no, nor did he keep company with the poor, common residents of his street. Day in and day out, he sat in his large study with the tall cabinets and long shelves, and did his accounts and calculations. For his trade extended far across the seas to far-flung, distant lands. At intervals, perhaps once or twice per year, he had to leave his house for an extended period when his business affairs summoned him far away. At these times, the girl stayed home by herself and took care of the household. One day, the merchant lord stood, once again, before the girl to tell her that he was leaving home for some time. "I don't know when I will return," he said. "Take care of the house as you have before, but," he interrupted himself. "I see you are old enough now. During my absence you can do as you please in the house. Here, take the keys." The girl, who up until this point had stood silently in front of him, gazing wide-eyed at the strange, colourful flowers that were embroidered onto the Lord Merchant's clothes, looked up and took the keys. Suddenly the merchant lord looked at her with intent. Then he spoke in a stern tone of voice. "You know very well that you may use the keys only for the rooms in which you see to the household chores. Never let yourself be tempted to ascend to the upper floor. Do you understand?" Timidly the girl assented. Then the merchant bowed down, kissed her, looked at her once more with a penetrating gaze, went down the stairs, and left the house. The front door slammed shut behind him with a bang. The girl was still standing by the stairs in a daze, gazing at the large bundle of ancient keys that she held in her hand.